tried to do the Frugalissima challenge, the Frugal Frocks challenge, I've narrowed it down to these options. I've had this pattern quite a while, forgotten I'd got it. I got this Ponte before Christmas. That was meant to be for a Lulu cardigan. Then I've got both, and it reminded me of a top that I'd made in the 70s, where I've got blue and pink. And I'd covered buttons in pink on the blue and covered buttons on blue on the pink. This is my fabric of the moment that I've been worried about actually cutting, and I'm thinking if I use this I can just get on with it. It would turn out similar to a sweater dress. I may or may not put a band on the bottom and give it the Susan sleeve treatment, which is really gather a lot of the shoulder. So I'm thinking about that one. And this cotton I've had in my stash for quite a while, and I thought there was only 1.5 meters, and there's over 2 meters. So I've washed it. It's a Rose and Hubble fabric. The dress itself is quite short, and I would lengthen it. And I don't like cotton at my armholes. I don't like the stiffness of cotton at my armholes. So I'm thinking I could also, as it's a 60 style, I could use it, do it slightly bigger and use it as a pinafore with a lightweight polo underneath it, and possibly use the yellow as a bow, or not have it as a pinafore, see if there's enough for sleeves, and use it, the self fabric for sleeves, but use this as a collar for the green version. So I'm thinking on all of them. And then I'm just going to work out actually what is it that I need. Do I need any of them? And what would I get the most wear out of at the moment? Okay, so I will make a decision when I've had some porridge. Okay, I'm very sorry, it's very dull in here. I don't think that'll make much difference, but I wasn't going to do a video of my doing it. It's not really a sew along. Well, it's not a sew along at all. I'm just explaining that I'm happily taking part in the Frugal Frocks challenge, and my decision on what I'm making has been made from kind of staying with the rules, but also what did I really want to make. And I bought this fabric from Beyond the Pink Door, and I mention it in video 8, I think, my episode 8, when it had arrived, January-ish. And I was inspired to buy it to make the Billy sweater, the Billy sweater dress with the puffy sleeves. But then I couldn't find any. When I did finally find some from Andrea at the Pink Door, I was working on other things and I had other things in mind, and then I got to a point where I like it so much I was a bit afraid to actually cut into it, so I wasn't quite sure whether or not to do the Billy, and I'd sent for the pattern, but I haven't printed out and put together the PDF. So then I've been watching other people who've been doing the Billy, and Andrea from Beyond the Pink Door has made herself one in this. Because I'd seen it on, I can't just remember her name, at Thread Quarters. Lovely person, can't think of her name. Anyway, I'd seen her in it with the puffy sleeves and I really liked it. She wasn't keen on the puffy sleeves, and Andrea made one as a sew along with just the ordinary set-in sleeve. And she was having problems with the neckline, and Cara from So Mad, she'd mentioned about the neckline too. So anyway, I was dithering about what would I do. So what I found is just a pull-on dress, and as I started to prepare I'd already washed the fabric weeks ago and it was in my pile, so to me it's become part of my stash. And I'm using a pattern that was free with a magazine that I'd forgotten about because I didn't like it, the way it's very long and there's a sash on it. So, but when I've looked at it, it would fulfill my requirements in that it would give me a bit more shape than a sweater dress, and I thought I'd probably have enough to alter the sleeves and put a puffy sleeve on. I may or may not be able to do that now, because as I've laid it out, I have realised there is a hole in it. No, as I just ran the iron over it to get rid of the centre crease, and also because since I'd washed it, I realised I hadn't ironed it, so I've just ironed it gently and on the back side of it. It's French terry. It's called Picking Garden, and it's an organic cotton. I still can't get my head around that. How is it an organic cotton if it's stretchy like that? Is it just the knit that's done that, or is there some lycra in it? Anyway, I've got to investigate that at some point. But as I started to put it together to lay the pattern out, I rechecked the measurements, and the finished measurements are on the pattern pieces themselves. And although I was going for a 16, which is not normally my size, but I've come a cropper in some of the patterns lately, and I'm not knowing what size I am at all, so I'm just going off the finished sizes, and I'm taking a chance, and I'm not taking a chance, so I'm cutting it out as an 18, which actually really irks me because I'm nearer to a 14 now than a 12, but jumping from a 16 to an 18 is something psychologically not alright about that. But anyway, and also it's very straight down, and unless I'm having it as a sweater dress, I'm not sure that would be comfortable for me. So I've just extended the hip line out a little so that it's got a bit more A-line, only a little bit. So there's that, and I've had to lengthen the bodice, and I almost came a cropper twice because as I was ironing it, I spotted this hole in it, and I have managed to move everything down and start at this end and miss it. I've put a pin in where it is. I also am really glad that I didn't just lay it out and cut the front out, which is on the fold, because as I was looking at the back, I realised that's to cut on the fold as well. So I've had to unpin it and move it round so that I'm doing one side from one fold and one side from the other fold. So I've folded it into the middle. Don't know if that makes sense, but it's not proving as simple as just whip it out, cut it out, sew it up, and that'll be it. So I'm going to be doing a lot of adjustment as I'm going along, but at least if I've done it bigger, I can, sorry about the crackling, at least if I've done it bigger, then I can do bigger seam allowances and trim it. Whereas if it's too small, there's very little I can do. And especially as it's being a Frugal Frocks thing, I don't want to have wasted the whole thing on something I'm not going to use if I have to chop it up into a top or something. So I'm really pleased so far now that I've got my head around it and I kind of know what I'm doing. And then I'll just see how it works out. I'm happier that it's going to be a bit more fitted. There isn't a dart at the bust, but there is a dart at the back, so that pulls the back in a bit, and that'll be a bit more fitted rather than just a sweater dress. So I'll see how I go on. Okay, thank you. I've had to put some lights on because it felt like I was in the dark when I looked at the film. So the bit I like is actually now trying to make it fit me. This pattern looks so simple. It's just that one I'm doing. Just a jumper dress, a sweater dress, whatever you'd like to call it. Pull it on over your head, just two waist darts at the back, but no darts at the front. And I knew I'd have problems, and I have. It isn't that I'm big busted, it's just that I end up with a load of bagginess here. And I've had to do an 18, as I mentioned earlier. It's a good job I did, because it only just fits me on the hips. And I've only basted it down the side with a very narrow hem in a very big stitch. Most of this is all going to be undone again. And the darts are fine, but most of the rest is going to be undone and resewn. So what I've had to do is I've had to find a pattern that has a dart from the seam up to the apex of the bust, and so I've just insisted it had one. I manoeuvred it about until it got one, and now it's got one. Well, it's got two, and that fits better. But obviously now I have to reshape all this and pull this in and that in, and I've got the shoulders to sort out and see if there's any way I can sort out this other bit. There's a little bit still a bit baggy here, but in a way it's the challenge of that now. I've got to make it fit me. I like the way it just pulls on, and it's just simply just kind of, I can't say it swings because there's not much fabric in it to swing, but it just sits where I want it to sit hip wise. It's not bad on the waist. But how this is an 18 pattern and a size 18, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. And I'm not being naive about my size. And maybe I've had a few too many Ferrero Rocher or some chopped dairy milk, fruit and nuts blocks during the lockdown period, but I've certainly not gone from a 12/14 to an 18. So this is a bit weird, but anyway. So obviously the neck isn't going to be right now, the neck at the back is too high, but I've also got that thing that I get, because I'm a sway back, and so I've ended up with, I often end up with, I can get it curved into my spine area, but then I end up with a lump here. And because it's got two darts that kind of finish there, the lump there isn't too bad for my shoulder blades, but then I have a baggy neck. So I have to work out how I can sort that out. So that is my next job. I'm quite pleased with how generally I like it, and I just like something that you pull on. Not fussy, that I'm going to wear most of the time rather than something I have to wear for something special. I've also managed to craft some sleeves. Still going off the idea of what I wanted to do with it in the first place was a billy dress, but I don't want to make it like that now. So I'm pleased I've had this opportunity to expand that idea. But I do want to have a sleeve that's gathered at the top. And I've already made this pattern with this sleeve in a dress that I call my anniversary dress. It's never got a wearing properly because when I'd finished it, I stretched the neckline as I put the facing on. But this is the sleeve from it. So I don't know if that counts in Frugal Frocks, but it's been used before. It's a second-hand pattern, if you like. But I'm hacking this with the sleeve from that. So last evening I just sat and I just did a double row of running stitch to help those gathers come together, and it is quite loose at the bottom, and in my anniversary dress I just added 3 inches and turned it up and put elastic in, but I didn't have quite enough material to make it long enough to do that. But I'd had the idea, sorry I've just thrown a picture on the floor, I'd had the idea that I may put a cuff on it. I'm just looking at it. So I'm going to pinch the cuff pattern from the Sinclair pattern, which was a free pattern, so I think that might be more legal. And so I just cut 2 of these on the fold. I've made myself an extra one so that I didn't have to forget that I should take it off and redo it when I did the Sinclair cardi. So I'm going to do that, and so the cuff should be quite deep because it's a double. We'll double it over and see how that goes. I may adapt that, I may not adapt that. So I'll have to also do some running stitch at the bottom. But I'm working on, although this says, you know, and you just think, I wonder if this is videoing. I'm going to check. Oh, although this pattern in the instructions suggests that you you sew the shoulder seam, and then you do the darts, you sew the shoulder seam, and then you sew it up the sides, and then you insert your sleeve. I want to see if I can try and do it the way I did my Harper cardigan, and the way I think the Billy does that as well. There's quite a few things where you put the sleeve in while your sides are open, and I thought I'm going to try that with this dress. So that's what I'm saying. This is going to have to be unpicked anyway for me to re-sew it, and once I've got the front in the right place and the back in the right place, and adapted some way of working out how to accommodate this extra bit. So I may take it all out and do it open and put the sleeve in. I may not, but that's an option. So I'm enjoying the thinking about it. Really, it should have been, you pick up this pattern, go, oh, I'll pick up this pattern, I'll do it in some jersey, and I'll have it ready for tea time. I'll be going out in it. But not that I can go anywhere anyway. But that's not what's happened with this. And I'm finding more and more that isn't happening with the things I'm sewing. And it isn't really that I'm not getting on with it. It's just there are complications. So, watch this space. Okay, got where I'm up to right now. Oh yeah, I'm going to take the shoulders off, and then I've got to adapt the back to the front, because now I've got an even more baggy back because I've lost some of the front in the dart. So, just an extra thing. I had a wakeful night. I got up in the night and I made myself a cup of tea, and I sat and I watched a video of Kate at the Last Homely House, and I really, really appreciate this woman. I really like her videos, and the one that just came up for me was her talking about she was a week later than losing her mum, and what she told us was a really heartwarming story about how her dad and mum met. Not giving you any spoilers, but it was a really heartwarming story, and that was 3 years ago. She's since put in her comments that this is probably the best video that she's put on YouTube. And if you've never met Kate at the Last Homely House, east of the sea, but I think you just need the Last Homely House. What a wonderful woman. What a wonderful, characterful, inspiring storyteller of a woman. So what it's prompted me to do is, I feel like, and some of the comments were really quite poignant, and people talking about how their mums and dads had got to the 90s and their relationships and when they met, and little stories. And it made me feel like I'd like to go to the creme today, just to kind of honour my mum. We're on COVID lockdown situation still, and technically it's illegal to drive 50 miles there and back. In a case like that, I may or may not do it. But anyway, what I've done so far instead is just posted on Facebook a picture of my mum. We lost my mum a year last November. She was 4 days after her 90th birthday, and we were sat with her, her 3 daughters sat with her on her 90th birthday, and although she was very rested and very under the influence of end-of-life medication, we sat and held her hand and sang some of her favourite silly family songs that we would sing. And we decorated her room in the nursing home with beautiful cards and some beautiful bunting, and it was really quite a lovely, special 90th birthday for us that we could share with her. And knowing it was her final one, it was very important to us. So I'm just a bit moved today, and I hope you don't mind me sharing that. So I'm going to get on and sew, because that's what she taught me to do. She bought me my first sewing machine at 18, and kind of famously for my 18th, because they'd just come in as 18 being coming of age rather than 21. And she quite famously bought me a machine on high purchase HP, and it was on a 3-year contract, and on my 21st birthday she paid the final payment. So both things were important to me, and both are connected to sewing. So thank you for watching. Bye. I shall carry on with this now. Still a little bit baggy at the back, and so I'm going to take, this is perfect for me, very happy with that, just around there. I'm going to take it in a little bit. I'm going to undo this part way along and bring the back further forward again, because there's still quite a lot of, I don't know if you can see, there's a lot of bagginess here. That quite often happens, and in some I have to put a couple of darts in the back. There is a pattern that I was considering doing that has darts in the back like that. It's not that one. I don't know where that one is. Anyway, I'd rather avoid the darts if I can, but if I can't, I will do that. And if I can't get this quite right as I want it to, you can't keep on doing this because it's white on the inside, and so you end up with pierce points through the fabric. That's going to show, so I'm not happy about that. So I'm going to be very careful about how I pull it apart. At the moment, I don't want to just nip it together and turn it in. This is more right. It's the back that needs lifting in and away from itself. So I'll have a go at that. I've also just had a try on of my sleeve. It's not hugely ballooned. I just didn't want that. It's relatively well gathered. I'm pleased with it. It's got the look I wanted it to have. I love this fabric. It does remind me of the other one that I think reminds me of a 3-piece suite we had, but I like just the ease without it having seams and tight and fitted, and it's just, I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to carrying on, tweaking it and finding where the fit issues are. Okay, explain all this while I've got my bare arms and my bruise from the garden when I fell. I've taken up quite a bit on the shoulder seams, more from the back than the front, and I've done something to the sides. I've recut the curve of the neck because it was too high as the 18, and I've recut. I've been taking a lot of this excess out by adjusting the shoulders and the sides. It's a lot better, so I'm feeling much better about it now. I'm going to have a little break, and then going to work out about trimming off the armholes, and still got a bit of this, so there's still some of that to work on. Okay, thank you. Right, I've got the fit right now. I've ended up putting an extra dart. Well, there were no darts in the front. I've placed a dart from the side. This is just in rough, so it will be visible, and I've done it in basting stitch, but I've taken it in and taken it out, done this one. I got this one right, and so I've done this one a couple of times. I've now managed to match it. I've got the radio on. Now then, I have sewn this side in, this sleeve in. This one's not quite attached yet. I've tacked it, basted it in, and I'm really pleased with it. The neckline has come out nicely. At first they were too far out, my shoulders, so I've trimmed the top of the shoulder seam, and I'm really feeling like this is going to be really nice. This is me, to quote a great song. Okay, let's see. So just come in a bit closer so that you can get an idea of these sleeves and the neckline. It's not that clear on the pattern that it's going to be that wide. It's fine. I had to just turn it over twice, turn it over 5/8 of an inch, and then just tuck the raw edge inside up to the crease. But that was, I thought it's going to be too small hem really, but it looks good. I'm pleased with it. Yeah. So I've got to do the cuffs. I have to sew this side in, just check that it is okay, and then decide whether I'm gathering it and putting cuffs on or whether I'm putting elastic in. It's not quite as long as I'd like it to be for elastic. Anyway. Yay, I've done the sleeves. I'm very pleased with the sleeves. You're not supposed to see my face because I've no makeup on. And I was just going to take a photo outside, excuse me, and a gale just suddenly gusted up, and I'm not doing that now. So here are my wonderful sleeves. Very pleased with them. They were a little difficult to just get it all in at the bottom. Just gonna overlock the insides. I've still got the gathering thread, but I am very pleased now. I've got my cuffs.